the last session of this conference, our annual conference. And this session is going to be talking about CCAM, connected and cooperative autonomous mobility. And let me bring to the stage the moderator of this session, Thierry Goger. He's the Secretary General of FEHRL. And I hope Thierry is on the line. And
thank you very much, Gonzalo. And thanks very much to IRF for the kind invitation. This is a great pleasure indeed to participate and contribute to this annual event and to help you moderating this session 5, focusing on the building blocks for connected, coordinated and automated mobility, which is now a very important topic, with this time a focus on the dual role of physical and digital infrastructure. As we speak now, I'm currently together with another speaker, Tom Alkin, in the partnership multi-cluster meeting based in Brussels here. So we just escaped the main room to attend at the same time the IRF annual event. This is actually the great things of let's say teleconferences, that we can be sometime in both places. It looks almost like a futuristic multiplication of ourselves. So this is really good to be here today and together with very prestigious panelists that I will present and introduce in a while. We'll be indeed dwelling into the interconnected technologies and smart infrastructure to hopefully propel the evolution of CCAM systems and to emphasize sensor-equipped roadways and data sharing protocols. So hopefully this session will provide valuable insight into the foundational elements necessary to advance transportation for safety, for efficiency, and for sustainability. So together today will be 4 great speakers. We will have Jacqueline Erhart, who is the ASECAP Cooper, and she is a chair on the ITS and innovation. So Jacqueline will be speaking very soon on the digital highways. Later, we will have Tom Alkin, who is actually sitting just on my side now, working at MAPTM as a strategic advisor for the connected and automotive mobility. Then I will give the floor to Veneto, with, sorry, I just need here, Veneto Carambia, who works at Autostrade per Italia as the head for the research, development and innovation. And last but not least, the floor will be given to Luc Texier, DF Group, working as the head of business development and partnerships for automated and autonomous mobility. So this is a great panel. What we want to do is to give 10 minutes for each speaker, around 10 minutes, so that we have a bit of time for questions, hopefully from the floor. And if not, I'm sure that questions will certainly come along the discussions. So we want to have a bit of time for these questions. That will happen immediately after each speaker. So without further ado, let me now introduce and ask Jacqueline Erhart to, let's say, take the floor and start your presentation. Jacqueline, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and I hope the sharing is already working. And you can see my screen showing you my presentation on the digital highway. So first of all, I think IRF really addresses here a really important topic, discussing the role of infrastructure and also the role of physical and digital infrastructure. And on behalf of ASECAP and the whole team on ITS and innovation, I'm quite lucky to share with you our idea and perspective on CCAM. For us, our mobility system is in a flux. We see different trends coming from just talking a lot about mobility, the different stages of mobility and multimodal approaches, and also, of course, the kind of new technologies helping us with machine learning, with other artificial intelligence toolings in getting even more and more efficient, but also bringing more and more added value to the whole mobility chain. And the question we always have is, we are in the middle of a green and digital transformation where we started 115 years ago, but just walking, then coming to horses, getting a little bit more mobile, talking about really passenger cars and mobility at a different stage, now coming to electromobility, and also a kind of more and more advanced automated mobility. And the question here is, of course, how have our roads in Europe to look like to fit this transformation in a way that we fit to both goals we have. And first of all, I remember when we started years ago to discuss about the physical infrastructure of our roads in Europe, about how different we are in each country and how different are the kind of standards or qualities, since some roads are newly built and some roads are in a kind of maintenance operation, and we just need to really fit to a balanced and also financial or financing possible road network, which is enabling this transformation of mobility. And as it looks like here, the physical infrastructure, we get more and more into this topic of automated mobility since some years. And I think that the key element of this new transformation of only talking about roads at itself and cars should fit to it, I think we have entered right now in a completely new era of discussion, and also about how really preparing our roads to fitting to the next generation of vehicles. And I think what is really important, we started to talk a lot about level 3, level 4, level 5, and about how they are tested in a way of simply the functional behavior of cars or the ego car itself on a road. And since we are talking about the safety assessments, I think there is now a new pillar added to the whole story, and that's this pillar of real-world testing. And what is behind just shows you here on the right side of my screen that infrastructure could look like below quite simple, where you have a highway quite straight, defined numbers of lanes, not that difficult since there might not be that much traffic. Or you come to toll plazas, which you see on the upper part, where you see that it could get really complex with a lot of traffic, a lot of different types of vehicles, a lot of kind of change or lane and change advices, since we have a free flow tolling systems. We also have barriers of paying tolling by still coins and real money, or really having this kind of toll roads for the logistics sector. So there's a variety coming from the vehicle itself we are talking about in automated mobility, and getting more and more infrastructure included in this whole picture. And what then makes it, of course, quite obvious, and I tried to start the simulation, I hope you can see it, that in discussing about advanced driving assistance functionalities or vehicles where no longer a human being is in operating mode, and more the vehicle is taking part of the decision makings of some traffic behaviors, it gets more and more interesting for road operators, and of course also for the other perspective of automotive mobility, the automotive mobility industry, to really fit both together. Because in fact, it's not only about roads, it's not only about vehicles, it's really in how they are all belonging to each other and how they are behaving in an overall traffic system. So it's a lot, I think it's 15 years ago where road operators started discussing about their mission in more and more cooperating directly without any service providers from the roads to the vehicles, or also let vehicles talk to each other. And this mission of cooperative intelligent transport systems has quite a long story. And to finalize it by really this year, the road operators managed in Germany and Austria to really have taken the first step of letting the infrastructure communicating and talking directly to a car. I'm sorry that that slide is in German, but it was really tested in real life operational services on the German and Austrian roads. And where you see from, well, end of this year, we are really managing to bring infrastructure information about traffic information, but also traffic awareness information into cars, like the end of a traffic jam or an accident information, or also warning that an emergency vehicle is approaching, or that there are some animals on the road or persons on the road, or a roadwork warning ahead. So this evolution of digitalizing infrastructure has started, but it's not the end of the full story. Since, as I mentioned, it's more than just roads and vehicles and that's it, and automated driving functionalities, and we will manage it. It's also much more about traffic, and also much more about the digital regulation of traffic law. And if we really assume that this whole orchestration will happen on itself from one point of time to the other, I'm not very convinced. And we still think that even the infrastructure sector has to more and more also deal with this topic of functional safety, and especially bring this functional safety and this clarity about the data quality and the data services, and also the time to really bring information into the machine readable way of taking machine decisions onto our roads, is really one of the key innovation topics we have right now to deal with. And in fact, by just maybe adapting in the future, the cruise control of car might not only have a benefit for the vehicles, but also will have a benefit on the efficiency of our networks. And that everything bringing together and shaping this view of what physical and digital infrastructure can do. We think that infrastructure is working on digital twinning of special parts of the network, where we really have this point cloud LiDAR informations, which we use for construction, but also could assume to bring that into the next generation of vehicles by some kind of map information. But on the other hand, although cars might know a lot about our roads, there's still this added value of infrastructure information. Not everywhere on the networks, but on specific parts. We could assume, when we are already working on that sensor technologies develop more and more, and real-time object recognition and more advanced traffic information can really bring an added value to this limited horizon of vehicles. But all this kind of sensor data, it's a lot of information you have, but you really have to work with the right fusion algorithm, also with the kind of machine learning and also different features in really identifying the right and needed information for a car at a specific point of your network. That is still a kind of IT architectural topic, where we have to distinguish between having network informations or having also edge computed information very locally where it is really needed. And altogether, of course, having the traffic management centers in place, because even if we will have teleoperated vehicles, there is still one traffic management center which deals with all the different service providers, with all the different brands, with all the different kind of technology evolutions in car, from the classical, which we know right now, to the partly automated, to the really highly automated vehicles. And that together, and also having the right real-time communications already in place in Europe, and still continue developing them for the next generation, in really have a good environment to bring technology into Europe, is the key point, which we think in really having an open-minded and open ecosystem where we are all together from the OEM industry, from the road operators community, but also from the sensor technology enablers, and also the new trends which we are right now heading to, bring all together to really make the mobility system happening right now. And so we're all working for a world where we can say entry clear and go ahead and have a happy journey.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Erhart. This was really, really interesting. So, well, I don't know if there is any question or follow-up question from the floor, or direct question to Jacqueline. Well, maybe just one question from my side. You insisted on the fact that this is much more than road, this is much more than vehicle. So maybe could you elaborate a bit more in a short way, to what extent should stakeholders collaborate to establish a new mobility system that would be successful and with a good purpose? If you wish to do that, you know, that would be nice to just to further explain what you had in mind.
Thank you very much for this question. We think that for a long time we really developed roads, and the automotive industry developed vehicle functionalities, getting more and more automated. But what we have a clear look into our future is that the whole mobility system and traffic management system will need that we cooperate in a way already in R&D, have a lot of different test sites, have a lot of different POCs, sharing openly their results, maybe not the right implementation codes, of course, there will be sure IPRs in Europe, that's good and fine, but maybe to share the approaches which were successful, or also the requirements that our community and the R&D community has figured out. Because for us it is important to not that everyone learns by its own, but that we all collaborate in a way that we can show much faster than we do right now, see some really continuous improvements of our systems, and can learn from the last project. So by step and by R&D call to R&D call, really get an improvement of the infrastructure, and maybe also figuring out in which kind of requirements do we have on LiDAR technologies? Do we have some specific radar technologies which could be very interesting? Has somebody figured out how sensor fusion could really work for real-time communication to a vehicle? Has anybody really thought already about how to put an information which is coming from a different source, must not be a road operator, but from outside, to a vehicle functionality, which has then a specific ASIL level, and most likely an ASIL-D level, how then the infrastructure has to get ready. Because the important thing to know is that road infrastructure needs also kind of time to prepare itself, to test on local test fields, and then do well, network-wide deployment. So we really need to start from the beginning all together and share our results, and then really see that we can plan how to migrate that into our systems, or maybe also to discuss what is not possible, since there might not be enough electricity everywhere, or there might not be some other kind of road infrastructure elements, and that we start from the beginning.
We lost him. Is that us? It seems that we lost you, Jacqueline. Do you hear Jacqueline? If I look at Luc, do you hear Jacqueline? No. Okay. So sorry, Jacqueline, we can't hear you. And but thank you very much for your excellent presentation, and for the answer to the question. We would be happy to even continue further the discussion with many more questions. But we have to move on with the presentations and the session. So thanks again very much, Jacqueline, for your insight. This is really valuable. And now that you have set up the scene into this overall digitalization aspect, let's now move on to the traffic management. And I'd like to invite Mr. Tom Alkin, who actually just sits beside me, to present us his insight into the traffic management of the future and particularly the role of road operators in CCAM. So now I give the floor to Tom.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, I'll use your computer for the sound. Okay, we try to coordinate our actions here. Thank you very much for the invitation. And my background is with the national road operator in the Netherlands, Rijkswaterstaat, for more than 2 decades. Spent a few years in the European Commission, and I'm now with MEP TM in the Netherlands, but all the time working on CCAM. And thank you, Jacqueline, for pointing out the importance of CIDS and communication to bring CCAM in a meaningful way to the roads. In my presentation, I would like to touch on 2 topics that we have worked on and gathered experience in. One is traffic management for connected and automated driving. How will that look like in the future? It's probably different than we do traffic management right now for human-driven vehicles. And I also have some experiences that we gathered in San Francisco over the past 2 years in driving with some of the robo-taxis with Cruise and Waymo. And they gave some valuable insights also relating to the topic of this session. So traffic management for connected and automated driving was a CEDAR-funded project, which we were leading. And of course, we assume that CCAM has a lot of potential to make transport safer, greener, and more accessible. But of course, only if it's done right. And done right, of course, we can have a lot of discussion on that. There are a lot of challenges to be solved in different domains, in the technology domain, in the legal domain, the integration into the broader transport system. That's the topic of today. But also acceptance and trust in CCAM. We'll talk about that in a minute as well, because it needs to be accepted or embraced. So a couple of questions around traffic management for connected and automated vehicles. So what way would that be different? And nowadays we send information to humans that then take action on that or not, decide not to. But if you do it for algorithms, you have to be more explicit and you have to add in contextual awareness. So the level of contextual awareness is very important, and that's a part where we think that road operators can support automated vehicles. Of course, in mixed traffic conditions, there's a lot of complexity. We will have to define the appropriate driving behavior and responses of automated vehicles. And all of this is also related to the specific operational design domains. I'd like to spend a few moments on that. This is a visual representation of the operational design domain that I developed a couple of years ago while still with Rijkswaterstaat. And in theory, it looks like this. You are either inside or outside, and it is continuous. But if you look in practice, there are many reasons why the operational design domain actually has gaps or defragmentations, as it is called in the HiDrive project. And they are mostly due to physical situations, so infrastructural based situations, traffic conditions, or weather conditions. And then the vehicle has to be able to deal with that. And I think it is a joint effort to try and minimize those gaps or try to find solutions how to deal with those gaps when you go in and outside of the ODD. So within the project of traffic management for CAT, we developed a concept. So if there is one word that you should remember from this presentation, it would be the acronym DOVA, which stands for Distributed ODD Attribute Value Awareness. Can you all see my screen? I just got a message. Yeah, you can see the screen. Mm-hmm. Okay. What is important to realize is that on the one hand, you have the vehicle with all its technological competences and sensor information on its own. And on the other hand, you have the real world, and that is composed of various ODD attributes. And those attributes can also be sourced from external sources, could be from road operators, but as Jacqueline also pointed out, could be from other sources. And that combined will define the driving behavior capabilities, which then has to be in line with the rules of the road. And I think that's another important topic, to digitize the rules of the road, also with algorithms in mind and not humans in mind, because sometimes rules of the road are ambiguous, and then the humans are a filter to that. And those elements all together define automated drivability or not. So it's a really complex task. Try to get to the next part. So all the information of this project can be found online on the URL that I just shared. This summer there were 2 events in San Francisco, the annual Automated Road Transportation Symposium and also the annual International Task Force for Vehicle and Highway Automation, which I chair. And it took place in San Francisco. And there were quite some European experts that visited and took the opportunity to get practical experience with automated driving. And I have asked about 20 European experts about their experiences. And so these were the questions that we asked. So how many rides did you do? On average, that was 4.3. Was it the first time that you had such a ride? Also meaning that it was not in a way with a safety driver or in controlled environments. And for 80%, it was the first time. It also changed the perspective of most of us and the work that we do. So for 90%, it did change the perspective. So it was a very valuable experience. And I also asked about positive and negative effects. You can read a short article that I wrote on this because we do not have the time to go into the details. I only have about 10 minutes, and I'm suspecting, Thierry, that I'm getting to the end of that. He's nodding. So you can go to this blog and read a bit more about it. But I have summed up some positive and negative experiences here. Most of us felt that it was smooth driving, it felt safe. The driving was quite assertive, so not like we have experienced before with stop-and-go traffic with shuttles, very slow and very cautious. It stops for pedestrians, which is nice. Not all cars do that. I experienced that this morning in Brussels. And it sticks to the rules. This is also mentioned as one of the negative experiences, sticking to the rules, because sometimes people expect other drivers to go a bit over the rules, drive a bit faster or not make a complete stop at an empty intersection. So this is an ambiguous point. One of the rides, one of the colleagues, they were actually attacked by people. So there is some resistance against automated vehicles on the roads. And a lot of negative experiences were around pickup and drop-off issues. And of course, that has to deal with the fact that the curb has to be managed and pickup and drop-off points have to be in place. Braking is the phenomenon that a vehicle just stops for no reason and then later on continues. And of course, in the media, we learned about the interaction with first responders, with police and fire department. There are a few videos on this screen where you can see some of the negative aspects. On the right hand, you see resistance of some people trying to demolish a vehicle. In the middle, you see what goes wrong if you do not have traffic management measures in place. So if all the vehicles follow the same route, have the same algorithm, they can create a congestion. And on the left side, you see a vehicle that was bricked. It was a cruise vehicle. It tried to call for support, but there was no connection due to a network overload of a large concert that took place. But the strange thing is that, so this vehicle was sitting there for quite some time. I will be finished in 30 seconds. And what you can see now is that a Waymo vehicle is actually approaching, and it does not appear to be affected by the situation and is actually driving around the vehicle. So you see that there are 2 different solutions, and one did work in this situation and the other one did not. I'd like to come to the conclusion of this short presentation, but I'm available for questions, of course. We think that CCAM has a lot of potential. Real-life testing is really of the necessity, and you have to make iterative steps. And we think that roadside assistance is really helpful. So we discussed with OEMs the concept of DOVA, and they indicated that it would be of benefit for them. We have to try to apply it in practice. And we also think that remote support and a remote control room to monitor vehicles and give support is really of the importance in early deployments. And for all this, the dialogue between manufacturers and road authorities, of course, is needed. And education of the public is also important. I'd like to leave it at that here. You can always reach out to me if you want to know more. Thierry, I give it back to you.
Thank you very much, Tom, for this very insightful presentation. And I mean, maybe I'd like to ask if there is any direct question from the floor. Yes, if not, well, you really insisted on the traffic management and this DOVA concept, and you highlight in particular your experience at in the US with the Waymo and Cruise. So maybe my first question to you would be, do you think that CCAM would be possible without road operators' involvement? What would be your reaction for that?
Well, the reaction is that yes, it is possible, because that is something that we are seeing. You can have, let's say, autonomous CCAM, but not by definition. The connectivity part can really enhance the performance of automated vehicles. And with externally sourced information and cooperation with road authorities and road operators, you can really improve the service of automation, because you can extend the e-horizon, and you can also get access to information that cannot be gathered through the sensors of the vehicles. So, for instance, when all these vehicles get together at an intersection and cause a traffic jam, that can be solved with traffic management information. And you can also provide information that goes beyond the horizon of the range of the LiDAR and the radar. And in that manner, you can complement the information that the vehicle has, so it can, better proactively participate in traffic. I think this is a way to enhance the performance.
So this sounds very promising. When you just show the difficulties, or let's say the main issues in San Francisco in the videos, maybe a question that would be good to answer is, do you think that with the support of infrastructure or the road operators, this could be alleviated?
Sorry, what do you mean? This could be.
Do you think that the issue that you mentioned in San Francisco will be solved? With the
I think some of those things. So also with pickup and drop-off zones, of course, you need some. I think you need some rules, but also maybe some physical alterations of the curbside. Maybe creating spaces where it is easier to pick up and drop off peoples or parcels. You can also create, I think, and this is important, digital access zones that are flexible. So if a fire takes place, or if there is some other emergency, you could declare that location to be a no-go zone for traffic, and you can use this information to guide traffic around it, rather than having vehicles run into a problem and try to detect that and then decide what to do. I think this is one of the important things of exchanging information and making it accessible, perhaps through a digital twin. I think this is one of the things that road operators and OEMs should work on.
Okay, great. And maybe last question before we move on to the next presentation. In some of the case, it seems that maybe the teleoperation could also be helpful. What do you think about that, maybe to prevent some issues?
Yeah, I think we have to make a distinction between teleoperation and telesupport. So teleoperation is actually physically driving a car from another location. It is possible, but it is subject to latency issues And a lot of the companies think that this is not a viable solution. Also, you're not really solving a problem if you put the driver from the driving seat to another driving seat remotely. But I think that remote support, by actually having humans having oversight into a edge case or a tricky situation that the vehicle does not know how to handle, to give suggestions on how to maneuver out of that or deal with that, really is of the importance, especially in the beginning of the deployment. So I can imagine that in the first 2-3 years you need quite a lot of those interventions, but the advantage that you have is that from every intervention the whole fleet will learn, and it is my belief that within a couple of years you will need minimum oversight and support there. So especially in the beginning, in the transition phase.
Okay, thank you very much. I remember the scanning tour, the first scanning tour we did in the US back in 2014, if I'm not mistaken, when Tom was also there. We were in a vehicle from FEHRL where we could pilot half pilot the vehicle from a joystick at the back of the back seat of the vehicle. So now you even say that it could be even further away. That's very interesting. Yeah. Thanks again. Let me thank very much Tom for this excellent presentation. And with this, I'd like now to move on to the third presentation that will be presented by Mr. Luc Texier. So Luc, I give you the floor. You have 10 minutes to go through your insightful presentation.
I don't know who's managing the meeting with, I can't start the video from here for some reason.
Normally you're the one who manages directly, but
all right, good. We're here.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, very good.
All right, cool. All right, thanks everyone. Let's make it short. Lunchtime is coming up, at least for some of us in Europe. We talked, my colleagues talked a lot about the actual vehicles. We even watched some of them in action, or in inaction, we should say also. And of course, in the past few years, there's been a lot of focus on the vehicle with this, for example, those driverless shuttles in Europe, and it's always interesting to identify which vehicles we're talking about, because as you know, first of all, we are mixing up some terms like driverless, self-driving, automated, and the worst, autonomous, and that's why I put it in there, so that we remind ourselves that these vehicles are not autonomous. And but the truth is that if you go to a conference, or even if you have lunch with some friends, or go to a barbecue and talk about driverless or autonomous vehicles, people say autonomous vehicles, but there are many different vehicles. Like if you say vehicles when you talk about a bus versus a truck versus a car versus or even a train, and this doesn't change with driverless mobility. You have different kinds of vehicles, and they are even more different to some extent, because now there is also the battery range, obviously, and of course as we progress in this industry, the actual capability of the vehicle. We most likely won't see the same capabilities enabled in the same time frame for the same vehicles. And that's what we see on this slide, these autonomous shuttles coming from EasyMile, Navia, Local Motors in the past. hit the market as pure driverless vehicles, whereas of course the cars, as seen in the videos previously, are more regular, basically regular sedans or minivans or SUVs equipped with the proper sensors. And if we look into or if we look at the bus and trucks, it's another story, because of course the size of the vehicle is different, the speed as well, and what is loaded, the weight of the vehicle is also quite different. So so it's important that when we try to more and more, it was fine the past 10 years, so driverless mobility, or for example, the pseudo-autonomous shuttles, it's more or less 10 years now. Next year, we're gonna kind of celebrate the 10-year anniversary of these new machines. And the others are not at the same level. And as you know, many of these companies are in trouble anyway. So, but it's key to try to, when you talk about driverless vehicles or pseudo-autonomous vehicles, to try to specify which one. As you can see in this table, the range of a shuttle versus a bus is very different, even more when you compare with the car, the speed, the cargo, if there's some or not, and obviously the capacity as well. And even if we look at the column with cars, the capacity we could change from using a small automated car to an actual driverless bus, for instance, or minibus. So let's keep that in mind, and if you are engaged with stakeholders, and let's try to be also more precise. It's going to help as well down the road. But for the session today, we talk about this driverless machine, the driverless shuttle, so-called autonomous, or sold to the market, unfortunately, as an autonomous machine, as if we were expecting a machine to wake up in the morning and to say, oh, I'm going to go to the train station, pick up some guys and bring them to work. No, they are obviously machines designed from the beginning, at least, to be without a driver. There's usually not even a proper space for the safety driver. Zero emission in the sense that they are electric and friendly to all passengers. So that's a very much a strong requirement for those vehicles, as it is globally for in public transport. So again, at least in the case of Navia, Isima, Local Motors, and again this machine called the shuttle, this was also a new name on the market. It's designed from scratch to be, as I said, purely driverless, electric, obviously. It has in there a lot of computing power, an autonomous driving kit implemented on the computers, a drive-by-wire, so you can use a control to actually steer the vehicle, and a bunch of sensors, being lidars, camera, and a mix of them for the vehicles to be driverless, in the sense that there's no driver taking over and driving the vehicle. So it brings us to, and that was kind of one of the promises that this autonomous shuttles brought to the market, is that was, as we know now, 10 years later, that it was quite misaligned with the vision that convinced a lot of investors and wasted a lot of money, billions and billions, on an elusive vision that could be summarized with this funky picture from probably from the 60s, where you would be in a vehicle, watching Netflix and having a game with your family in this kind of futuristic city, where everything is designed for driverless vehicles or autonomous vehicles, and unfortunately, it's not really the case today. And if we look at and it was, thanks, it was illustrated just before by Tom. If we look at this picture that I've seen I use it because I see it in so many conferences, and still today, where you would see so many different vehicles going through a complex intersections with traffic lights and the likes. The truth is that this is not possible, and it's probably not doable, and that's probably fine. But let's be clear that, you know, having, as we see in this intersection, a truck going through, being not freaked out by the traffic around, and you don't see pedestrians, so that probably adding some complexity, and all the vehicles actually doing the right thing altogether, as we could see in the video just before. Apparently Waymo is able to do it to some extent, and Cruise not really. And here we have a truck that we never seen in cities, but one day they will arrive, and they will have to manage those situations. And as it was explained earlier also, I think we have a good flow in this session. They don't provide a transportation system. Even if tomorrow, by miracle, there was the best driverless vehicle falling from the sky, you wouldn't have, again, a transportation system, because, again, those machines are just not waking up and thinking they can do the job. They have to be told what to do. They are just machines. They are robots, right? And that's why there is this concept of fleet orchestration, which is a new piece in the ecosystem and in the technical infrastructure. It's basically a lot of algorithms, machine learning, indeed artificial intelligence for real, and that is there to basically compute what we call a mission, basically the A, the B, and how to get from A to B. And then with this already, you get transportation system, in the sense that this orchestration platform will make those decisions, will compute those missions according to bookings, like for the gentleman on the left-hand side, but also the pickup time and the stops and the schedules of a fixed line service. This will be then in real time, of course, and according also to traffic data and weather forecasts, of course, and things like this. Will be transformed. All this data is computed today, but is already today computed in real time to generate missions. So then now you have machines that are awake, waiting somewhere, receiving missions. Okay, now you have to go to B, and you have to do it this way. And now, indeed, the vehicle is driverless, executing the mission and reaching a destination to pick up someone, and then receiving another mission to then drop the person somewhere, but maybe in between receiving yet another mission to pick up someone to load the vehicle as much as possible. So I don't know if some of you remember the so-called Project Space that was driven by UITP and some of their members, where we put together this intelligent transportation system for automated vehicle, ITS for AV, where we try to understand where the fleet orchestration should fit and how it should connect with the existing systems. And this is where we get very real. If you look at this, it's yes, you have driverless vehicles, but it's just one part of it. And I mean, the importance of the pieces are not defined by the size you see on the screen, but we wanted to emphasize that all these backend systems that exist for travel information, payment, and the likes are part of an existing ecosystem for public transport, and they have to be integrated. And the orchestration platform, since it's using some of these data flows and data input, has to be at the center of those systems. So a reminder that was one of the goals of Project Space, is to help PTOs not realize because they knew it, but make sure that everybody is on the same page. All those systems are connected. Having a bunch of vehicles, driverless to some extent or not, doesn't change the big picture. So finishing with the checklist, if you have a project in mind, and many PTOs have looked into that, and some ahead of the pack, many in Europe, they've been through those kind of checklists where you have to define, clearly the use cases, taking into account the limitations of the vehicles, assessing, what the vehicles will be facing on a daily basis. Eventually, it shouldn't matter, but today it does. So be able to go through a given roundabout where it's not just madness 24/7. or managing intersections properly, and so on and so forth, it has to be assessed. The mobile network coverage is a key thing. It was, I think, mentioned by Tom that there was an overload on the network that basically disconnected the vehicle from the probably some sort of orchestration somewhere, and the vehicle was basically stuck there. It was a good illustration that the machine is at this point quite stupid and sitting where it is probably for safety reasons. A proper depot to store the shuttle. I read a story last week again that it shouldn't be overlooked. I mean, you can end up with not knowing where to store the vehicle, and these machines are fairly sensitive at the moment. So you can't just park them out there under the snowfall or rains. And the last bits are really about, you know, public transport integrations, using real-time data, and last but not least, because we still need the safety drivers today, and that was an issue, a big issue that was overlooked by Cruise. You need to find these people to basically secure the system for the time being, at least, and that shouldn't be overlooked, and that was overlooked indeed by Cruise. So with this, thanks again for listening. If you want to know more what we do at ZF on this topic, it's called Scalar. For people transport, it was formerly Best My Platform, if you remember, from the old days, and now it's part of Scalar, an on-demand platform for electric vehicles, driverless vehicles, and the likes. With this, thanks again for listening, and back to you, Thierry.
Thank you very much, Luc. That was really, really interesting, and indeed a very complementary presentation to what we could hear from the two previous speakers.
Yeah.
I would certainly have many questions, but I see the time is running, and so I would invite all the participants to raise a question via the chat, and the IRF colleague will be happy to relay the questions to the speakers. Now we need to move on to the last presentation. Once again, thank you very much, Luc, for your great presentation. And I'm happy now to welcome Mr. Benedetto Carambia for the last presentation of this session. And without further ado, Benedetto, the floor is yours.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Hi all. Hi all. Thank you. So I'll try to share the screen quickly. Okay. Let me know if you can see.
You can see. It's okay. Good.
Okay. So thank you. So well, I'm trying now to give the perspective of highway operator, which I'm a representative of, because I'm part of Autostrade per l'Italia, is the main highway operator in Italy. Now touching again the topic of connected and autonomous mobility, because we already see from the previous presentation that this is a kind of synthesis of the main trends of mobility now. So the connectivity, the electrification, the sharing mobility. So of course the ODD of a highway is one of the main ODD that is now called on the table to test those kind of technologies. First of all, I would like to give you a perspective of how complex can be an highway operational domain, especially, for example, the one in Italy that we manage, because of course there are a lot of users and vehicles that enter daily in this kind of infrastructure, and there are also morphological constraints that oblige the operator to manage, let's say, part of infrastructure, for example, bridges or tunnels, that in a way affect also the connectivity and the automated mobilities. So that's a point that has to be touched, because as Autostrade per l'Italia and with one of the subsidiaries in the group, the one that, of course, focus on the implementation of technologies. We are trying to fill the gaps, technology gap, to also let the let me say the mobility operator first, but then also the car maker provide the autonomous service continuously in a very large infrastructure like the one that we manage. We manage 3,000 kilometers of highway. Of course, we have some technologies that are already on the road that can be used as a touch point, as a, for example, IoT, distributed IoT, for the collection of data and also for the operations that has to be put in place supporting the vehicles itself. This is the group. So very quickly, one of the subsidiaries in the group is focused on the implementation of technology and also the research and development of new way to manage the mobility itself. This one is Movion, and I'm part of also of this company. And what we have already done towards CCAM, of course, is starting from the cooperative connectivities with the CITS. We implemented by our own the RSU, the V2X RSU that are already in operation in one of the portion of our infrastructure. And we already provide the services that has been defined by the CITS standard. The hardware that we are using and we deployed are already an hybrid hardware, so it uses the standard ITS G5 technology and also the cellular V2X technology. So that's one of the points that has to be touched, because the infrastructure, of course, is to embrace also the moving technologies that comes from the users. So it's truly important that this, let me say, this decision, especially the one that are taken by the car maker, are fully shared, because the infrastructure has to be prepared so that the cars can interact properly with the infrastructure. Of course, the introduction of new services or supporting properly this new mobility paradigm enforce us to use the approach of open innovation. So discuss a lot with external actors. The car maker is one of those, but not only. All the actors that are actively involved in this development, especially universities and startups, are very at the front of this new, let me say, development. And of course, the focus for us is define a role, a precise role of the road operator to exchange data with the car makers and also share the responsibility, because we already seen that there are a lot of limitation currently that that has to be, let me say, afford before to see a very large and spread use of this new mobility. Here are a couple of examples of what we already done, and we are proposing also at the standardization group to enhance the way how the cooperative mobility is now implemented. On the left side here, we can see one of the use cases that we are implementing with one of the main truck maker. And we are already proposing this use case that has been implemented with a POC on our highways to the C-Roads framework. And this is to fill a gap of one of the use cases that is not properly let me say, addressed currently, and it's very impactful on our let's say traffic management. Is of course the management of dangerous goods, and the use of connectivity between infrastructure and vehicles can improve a lot the management of this kind of situations and mitigate the risk of hazards. So here are different use cases that we are already implementing, and again, we are proposing at the standardization group so that can be spread out also out of the Italian context. On the right side, instead, is a use case that we are implementing and we are patenting to support the car maker in providing continuously the autonomous driving services, especially the levels where the level 3 and level 4, where the let me say the responsibility on the decision is totally on the technology, let me say, equipments, and the user, the human user, is called only when the technology is aware of any limitations in the performance. One of the prerequisites in providing this is, of course, the positioning. Unfortunately, in a very wide infrastructure with a very difficult morphologies, let me say, situations, but not only for the morphologies, also crossing towards a very dense populated area like urban area, because our highways is also passing through this context. The prerequisite of positioning cannot be precise as the car expects, because the precision and accuracy required is centimeters accuracy that has to be augmented with RTK, but of course the GNSS signal has to be there. So if you think about tunnels or situations similar to this, of course the autonomous level cannot be guaranteed. And this engagement and disengagement of course increase the risk of hazards. So our implementation is to create a kind of roadside constellation to transparently provide the positioning to car maker with the same standards that they are already using in this situation. That is the RTK, of course, positioning. We are implementing all the use cases related to connected and especially the autonomous mobility in one portion of our highway, that is the first portion in Italy that has been certified and approved by the Ministry of Transportation to host the autonomous mobility cases, so what is so-called smart road in Italy. And we are performing a lot of tests now with a very nice car that is equipped with full autonomous, let me say, devices to reach the level 3 autonomous driving in 126 kilometers of highway, especially at highway speed. So of course the highway speed required a very short response time, and of course the operation design domain of highway maybe is simpler than other operation design domain, like for example urbans, where a lot of hazards can happen, like for example pedestrians or something similar. But the high speed, of course, require a lot of focus on the response time, so stress a lot also the technologies. So here is very briefly what we are doing, and of course I'm available for any questions.
Thank you very much, Benedetto. That was indeed an excellent presentation and a very good indeed complement to the others. So, well, as I mentioned earlier, now the session is reaching its end. So I'm happy to let the audience again, if you need to get some clarification or further questions, use the chat to raise the questions. And well, this is the time now to thank one more all the speakers for that session. So thank you very much for that great contribution. And I give now the floor to Susanna for the remaining part of the conference. Once again, thanks to IRF. That was really a great session. Thank you very much.